6:30. After less than 2 days of Trump's tariffs, the White House announces it's exempting U.S. automakers from paying them on Canadian and Mexican imports. This as worries grow that the newly launched trade war could crush domestic manufacturing.
These big tariffs and the retaliatory tariffs will create chaos in the marketplace.
Plus, Ohio University announces it will not host the annual Black Alumni Reunion in response to new state and federal DEI guidelines. What this means for alumni looking to return to Athens. Start planning ahead now. Ohio football's 2025 schedule is already out. Newswatch starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Morgan Anderson. Athens residents enjoyed warm weather for the past few days, but will it stick around? For more, let's hand it over to our forecaster, Steve Nedlick. Steve?
Yeah, it really feels like we've experienced all 4 seasons just today alone. I mean, we woke up today, we saw temperatures as high as 60 degrees, and then we had that wind move in, some rain, and we've dropped all the way down to 43 degrees. And that's really, we're seeing a lot of this air come from up north and drop down and really cool us off, and that's why we've seen those temperatures dip. But with those temperatures also came rain, but it broke up enough to really just give us a few drops here and there and help cool off our air just a little bit more, so that's why we saw them drop that low. Tonight, we may see a few snowflakes depending on how low it gets, and right now there's a forecasted low of 30 degrees, so be on the lookout for that. Nothing that should really impact your travel time, but definitely be on the lookout for that. Tomorrow, we will have pretty much the same day, a high of 41 and a low of 28 with mostly cloudy skies. So that cold is going to stick around at least for the next few days, so stay tuned for my full forecast.
Thanks, Steve. Ohio University's annual Black Alumni Reunion is on hold indefinitely. The move comes as the university is making sure it's in compliance with the new DEI guidelines released by the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights and new Ohio legislation. The reunion would have been here in Athens starting April 10th and running through the 13th. The Alumni Planning Committee is evaluating next steps, but some of the reunion's events may need to be cut to preserve federal funding. No replacement date has been announced. A coalition is asking Ohio lawmakers to include free meals for students in the state budget. The group is mostly made of high school students, but brands like Kroger, CVS Pharmacy, and the Ohio Education Association also joined. Hunger Free Ohio says free breakfast and lunch would cost $300 billion per year. The state's proposed budget gives over $20 billion to public education. Adding universal meals would increase it by 2.5%. Adding free meals to the state budget would leave public schools more money to address other needs. A survey from the Terrence Group says 67% of Ohioans support free meals in schools. The Trump administration has made U.S. automakers exempt from tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada. This comes after Trump met with leaders from 3 major automobile manufacturers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. Earlier today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt read a statement written by President Donald Trump.
We spoke with the big 3 auto dealers. We are going to give a 1-month exemption on any autos coming through USMCA. Reciprocal tariffs will still go into effect on April 2nd. But at the request of the companies associated with USMCA, the president is giving them an exemption for 1 month so they are not at an economic disadvantage.
This is the only exemption on tariffs announced since they started yesterday. All other tariffs on imported goods from Mexico and Canada are still in effect. In his address to Congress last night, President Trump spent several minutes doubling down on his tariff agenda, which has sent stocks sinking, businesses scrambling, and consumer confidence plunging. Julia Benbrook has more.
President Donald Trump spoke on the phone with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for about an hour this morning, following an extraordinary back and forth between the 2 leaders over a brewing trade war. Trump said that the call ended in a, quote, somewhat friendly manner. This call comes the day after Trump enacted a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico and doubled a tariff on Chinese goods to 20%. Trump admitted that his moves would lead to a, quote, adjustment period but seemed to double down on his tariff agenda during his joint address to Congress.
There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much.
Members of Congress, even some in his own party, have been calling on Trump to backtrack. Democratic Senator Chris Coons warns that this could lead to a shock to the pocketbooks of millions of Americans.
Whether it's prices at the pump, the price of vehicles, the price of housing or groceries, these big tariffs and the retaliatory tariffs we will get from Mexico and Canada will create chaos in the marketplace and further raise prices.
This is just Trump's latest move on tariffs. The 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports is scheduled to go into effect on March 12th. And the reciprocal tariffs that could match other countries' tariffs dollar for dollar are set to start on April 2nd. At the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Food pantries across Southeast Ohio are bracing for the impact of President Trump's tariffs. Demand for food pantries has significantly increased since 2022 because of inflation, the end of the COVID SNAP benefits, and now tariffs. Food banks expect an increase in visitors as prices keep rising, but they aren't sure if they can keep up. HAPCAP officials say people experiencing food insecurity turn to food banks as a last resort. But the tariffs on imported goods, like fruits and vegetables, may make it more difficult for food banks to keep their shelves stocked. A ruckus reception for President Trump on Capitol Hill last night, where the president promised to, quote, tell it like it is. The president delivering an address to a joint session of Congress 44 days into his second term. While Democrats warned of the toll of his policies. Karen Kafa has more.
President Donald Trump back in the House chamber for the first time since 2020.
I return to this chamber tonight to report that America's momentum is back.
Trump sought to rally a thin GOP majority around his agenda and convince the American public that his tariff policy, which prompted swift retaliation from Canada and China, with Mexico promising measures coming Sunday, and faces skepticism from some fellow Republicans, will benefit them in the long run.
Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance.
Trump also defended the work of the Department of Government Efficiency, which has slashed thousands of jobs from the federal government in just weeks. He singled out billionaire Elon Musk in the chamber, who has been leading the charge.
Everybody here, even this side, appreciates it, I believe.
Meanwhile, a number of Democrats brought laid-off government workers as their invited guests, putting Trump face-to-face with them. Other Democrats showed disapproval of his policies with signs or by leaving the chamber. Democratic Congressman Al Green of Texas was removed from the chamber after yelling at the president.
The chair now directs the sergeant-at-arms to restore order.
The official Democratic response to Trump's speech was delivered by freshman Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan, a state she says will feel a direct hit from the Canadian tariffs.
He's on the hunt to find trillions of dollars to pass along to the wealthiest in America. And to do that, he's going to make you pay in every part of your life.
On Capitol Hill, I'm Karen Kafa.
The Trump administration is continuing its purge of bureaucrats with plans to fire more than 70,000 employees at the Department of Veterans Affairs. The VA's department chief says he's working with Department of Government Energy to restructure the department. The goal is to take the department back to pre-COVID staffing levels. The VA grew significantly under the Biden administration as part of the PACT Act. It would expand coverage and eligibility to millions of veterans exposed to toxins and hazards like burn pits. The U.S. Supreme Court rejects the Trump administration's efforts to block foreign aid spending. The 5-4 ruling requires the administration to unfreeze $57 billion of Congress-approved funding to U.S. aid. But the Supreme Court didn't say when the funds had to be released, and that will have to be battled out in lower courts. Nonprofit groups that receive a portion of the funds say lives are at stake without it, whereas the White House says it's trying to manage spending. The director of the CIA says the U.S. has paused intelligence sharing and weapon shipments to Ukraine. John Ratcliffe said President Trump ordered the pause because he questioned whether Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was committed to peace. The pause comes days after the two leaders had a contentious meeting at the White House last week. Ukraine relies on intelligence from the U.S. to help plan its offensive and defensive operations against Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he hopes relations between the U.S. and Ukraine will improve.
Everyone can see how quickly diplomatic events are developing. Today, our teams, Ukraine and the United States, started working on the meeting. Andrei Yermak and Michael Waltz spoke, and there is positive progress. We hope to see the first results next week.
Zelensky said Ukraine is ready to negotiate an end to the war and sign a rare earth minerals deal with the U.S. Lithium-ion batteries are in so many things around us, from cell phones to electric vehicles. They are crucial for everyday life, but they can pose a great danger when they've been damaged in disasters. Maribel Gonzalez details the EPA's battery cleanup efforts after the California wildfires.
In California, the Palisades and Eaton fires burnt thousands of buildings to the ground and charred electric cars to their frames, leaving behind a trail of hazardous waste like lithium-ion batteries at a scale the EPA has never seen before.
We're expecting to have upwards of 500 tons of lithium-ion batteries.
Is that the most you've ever seen in any sort of disaster?
Correct.
The EPA now on a mission to dispose of these damaged batteries safely, as they can reignite weeks after the fires that heated them are contained.
That instability is still there, and they won't give an indication of when they're going to fail.
After collecting the batteries, EPA technicians bring them to one of two Southern California staging areas. First, soaking them for days in tanks filled with brine solution to de-energize them.
It's a concoction of sodium chloride and sodium bicarbonate.
Larger battery packs are then torn apart, hundreds of jam-packed individual batteries released.
They're going to be the ones that might end up emitting toxic gases or metals.
They're scattered, crushed, and scooped.
That final product is now no longer considered a battery.
This novel process, first developed during the 2023 wildfires in Hawaii and then refined during the 2025 California ones, now critical to the EPA's response to future disasters.
Be it floods or hurricanes on the East Coast, or fires out here, or whatever else may be there, this will be a part of the waste streams.
I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
Coming up, looking to escape the winter weather, find out how you can save on your spring vacation. And new data shows a positive trend in cervical cancer screens, what experts say is behind the low cancer rates.
And the cold and rain has returned. Stay tuned to find out how long it'll last.
WOUB Public Media is partnering with organizations across the region to celebrate Women's History Month with screenings of the independent Lens documentary Free for All, the Public Library. The film tells the story of the pioneering women behind the free library movement, while also talking about the issues libraries are dealing with present day. Join us throughout the month of March.
In some ways, Portsmouth was one of the last small cities to field a team and get a franchise. What was kind of extraordinary about Portsmouth was it was able to field an incredible team. For a brief moment in the sun, a little sweet spot that almost was sweet enough to get them a national championship, but they put together the team that ultimately did win the championship in 1935 in Detroit.
For more than 70 years, WOUB Public Media has been the place where people in our region turn to learn how stories of the past ignite the imagination of the future. It's where information, entertainment, and education work together to inform, enlighten, and inspire generations. It's the place where the community gathers to hear and see our world in new and innovative ways. WOUB, the public media you trust that's worthy of your support.
We've arrived to the season 15 finale of Hardwood Heroes.
Yeah, join us this Sunday night at 11 p.m. for the hour-long special where we will reveal all of our season award winners.
And we'll have a full recap of everything you need to know from the Waterford Girls State semifinal matchup.
Yeah, and don't forget to check us out on social media all week long over on our X, Instagram, and Facebook to get you ready for our finale.
And for everyone here at Hardwood Heroes, we're reminding you
to be heroic.
We've had a pretty wild weather day today in terms of temperatures. Now, we started at about 65 this morning, and we've dropped all the way down to 43 and now we have overcast skies, and that is due to this front that has moved through over the past 24 hours. Not one, but two cold fronts have brought rain and clouds to our area, and what that rain does is it helps cool off the air even more, which is going to make it feel pretty chilly out there, especially after what we had at the beginning of the week. Now, as we take a look into the regional radar, we have a lot of stuff going on. We had this rain that passed through in the morning, and now we have this system that's moving through right about now. It's going to stay pretty scattered, but then taking a closer look is where we start to see a little bit of a mix of precipitation with a little bit of ice, maybe a little bit of snow. It all depends on what our temperatures get to tonight, and it looks like we may drop down to about 30 degrees, so we will see a mix of, rain, ice, maybe some snow, but nothing that's going to affect your travels, so you shouldn't really have to plan too much for that. Now tomorrow, we're going to have a pretty similar day in terms of temperature. Now we're going to stay at 41 and a low of 28. But the interesting part about tomorrow is that at about noon is when that wind's finally going to die down. We've had really windy conditions, 20, 30 mile per hour gusts, but that will stop at about noon tomorrow when this high pressure starts to move in and really is going to help calm our weather down. Now again, speaking about that high pressure, it's going to sit pretty far away from us, but it is still going to impact our weather systems. And then as we look into tomorrow night is where it starts to drop down, and we will possibly see some snowflakes in the area because we don't have that acting on us. We still have some of that moisture in the area. So if you're doing anything, maybe bring a coat just in case, but we will have some scattered showers, maybe some scattered rain, nothing that we can tell yet. And on Friday is when we really start to see this system move its way slightly to our area, but again, the high pressure is going to stay in effect, and we really aren't expecting much. So not a lot of weather happening for us in terms of precipitation. We do have these temperatures slowly rising as we head into the end of the week, and they will get back to what they're supposed to be, or not what they're supposed to be, what we've experienced earlier in the week as we get into next week. Now taking a look, we're looking at a temperature map that is going to look at the overall 6 to 10 day outlook. And this half of the country is really just going to experience well above average temperatures. And then the other half is pretty different. So as we look into the end of this week is when we're going to see a high of 46, kind of a right around average. But then on Sunday is when we start to see them rebound a little bit. And then on Monday, we're back to 60, 69 on Tuesday. And is that a 71 on Wednesday? I mean, it's starting to feel like spring. I don't know about you, but it is certainly something to be excited about.
Steve, I am especially excited, but listening to your weather, this is the definition of just crazy Ohio weather, is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, one day it's cold, one day it's snowing, you
right.
know.
So right now, I think, I have my winter coat, I have my light jacket, and a rain jacket all sitting out.
Exactly. I mean, that's your only game plan right now because we have such a mixed bag.
Oh my goodness. More of a reason to listen to you on Newswatch
exactly.
to hear what to expect. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Coming up next, with spring break just around the corner, many students are booking flights, packing bags, and heading toward warmer weather. But if you haven't booked anything yet, there's still some time to escape and score some savings. Experts say some airline tickets cost up to 40% less than usual for this time of year, even for popular vacation spots like Honolulu and Puerto Rico. Experts recommend bundling your flight and hotel room to save on your spring getaway. Well, Ash Wednesday services are underway for the second time without Pope Francis. And instead of being in person, the Pope wrote a special Ash Wednesday reflection for a cardinal to read in Rome. In the reflection, the Pope's message is that death is a reality and something everyone will have to reckon with. The Pope is now in stable condition after episodes of acute respiratory failure on Monday. The 88-year-old remains in the hospital while his battle with double pneumonia continues. A new study finds rates of cervical cancer screenings remain low across the U.S., despite more than 2 million new cancer cases projected for this year, according to the American Cancer Society. Senior author of the study, Preeti Bondi, found that cervical cancer screenings in 2023 remained at 14%, which is below pre-pandemic levels.
Some of the research points to reducing knowledge among women about the need for cervical cancer screening and fewer recommendations to be screened by physicians.
Cervical cancer screening recommendations vary based on age and health, but the United States Preventative Services Task Force says if your age is 21 to 29, get your first Pap test at 21 and every 3 years after. If your age is 30 to 65, there are options. Get tested for human papillomavirus, which can cause cervical cancer every 5 years.
Next in sports, better get ready for fall now. Ohio football has released its 2025 schedule
Find out who the Bobcats are playing and when after the break.
The Great Barrier Reef is in grave danger.
For over 65 years, Sir David Attenborough has been the voice of the natural world.
The blue whale!
And he's become one of the most loved and respected broadcasters of our time.
The truth is, there's no one like David.
Audiences rarely get to see the man behind the lens. This is David Attenborough's life journey. Tonight at 8 on WOUB.
I hear the echoes all through the meadows. Breathe in and let go. That sweet surrender. I've been running and running and running all through the night. You can knock me down, but I've got my will to survive. Rise up, rise up.
Together, we can make real change happen.
WOUB is recognizing members of our Cornerstone Society. The Cornerstone Society is a group that wants to ensure the future of public media in our region. It includes people across our area who value news, entertainment, and cultural programming, as well as the educational services WOUB provides. Also included are graduates of Ohio University who took part in the WOUB Student Professional Development Program. Thanks to the Cornerstone Society for their generous support. To learn how you can be involved, email woub@woub.org.
If you like to plan ahead, I have good news for you. You can start preparing for fall already. The Mid-American Conference released its full schedule this morning for football, as now we know who, when, and where the Bobcats will get to defend their MAC title against. Those first 4 games you see right there, those are non-conference. We've known those for a while, but the entire MAC slate is new information. Of note, Bowling Green opens conference play on September 27th. The Bobcats will also host Northern Illinois for what could be the final time ever before it's moved to the Mountain West. The Battle of the Bricks is in a weeknight spot on a Tuesday night, and I've heard a lot of fans say they are frustrated about that one not being on a Saturday. The road to March Madness still on for Ohio men's basketball, but there was a bump in the road last night, losing at home for just the 3rd time all season, spoiling senior night. A.J. Clayton for the last time as a Bobcat in the combo. It was a slow start for the Bobcats as Eastern Michigan came out firing and built a double-digit lead early. Ohio came roaring back at the end of the first half as Jackson Pavletsky got the combo rocking with an and 1 3-pointer. Pavletsky ended the half in grand fashion, hits the buzzer beater to tie the game, grabs his 1,000th career point in the process. Things would only go downhill from there, though. Eastern Michigan proved to be too much to handle in the paint. The Eagles beat the Bobcats for the 2nd time this season. There's been some shuffling in the MAC standings after last night's results, but if the season were to end today, Ohio would play Toledo in the MAC quarterfinals next week. Ohio also happens to play Toledo Friday night at their place. There could be a lot that could change to the bracket that night. Stay with me here. Easiest thing for Ohio to do to get the 3 seeds, just win. If that doesn't happen, though, it gets tricky. Luckily, I went ahead and did all the tiebreakers for you. There's no way to get the 4th seed for the Bobcats, but a loss could knock them all the way down to that 6th spot. Unfortunately for Ohio women's basketball, there won't be a trip to Cleveland. They're already eliminated from MAC tournament contention, but there's still some basketball left for the Cats. Senior Day was already celebrated over the weekend, but tonight is the true final home game for Ohio. It hosts Western Michigan. Tonight, it'll be interesting to see how the Bobcats approach their final 2 games, not 100% knowing what the roster might look like next year. But it's a final ride for key seniors such as Kate Dennis and Kennedy Watkins. To the diamond, Ohio baseball has had a tough start to the 2025 season and are already well below 500, but they've been in nearly every game and ultimately lost yesterday by just 1 crack of the bat. The Bobcats drove the hour and a half to go to face their rivals across the Ohio River and took the herd down to the wire but faltered in extra innings. There are tough ways to lose, but a walk-off grand slam has to be up there as one of the worst. That's exactly how Ohio lost. Bobcats have the chance to bounce back this weekend against Bowling Green in a 3-game set. Hey, it's been a very eventful week in sports, but don't forget about Ohio hockey as they head to their national tournament next week. To help preview it, we're interviewing head coach Barry Schutte live tomorrow at 6:30 on Newswatch. You won't want to miss it. Let's go ahead and send it back to Morgan.
Thanks, Grant. Still ahead, what would you do if you were 100 years old? Well, one woman has a minute to spare with their son at their favorite activity. What they do together might come as a sweet surprise. That next.
In celebration of Ken Burns' film, The National Parks, America's Best Idea, we take a closer look at the story that inspired a new generation of visitors to these national treasures.
I think the national parks sort of perfectly represent that. We couldn't have done it without a country that was willing to consider new ideas.
Please join me, Peter Coyote, for Ken Burns, The National Parks.
Thursday at 10 on WOUB.
Buongiorno, I'm Rick Steves. Join me as we explore some of my favorite places in the heart of Italy. We'll retrace the steps of St. Francis in Assisi and bask in the dolce vita of Italy's vineyards, hill towns, and agriturismo hospitality. Whether you're planning your next trip or simply want a virtual visit, you won't want to miss this exciting tour through the heart of Italy.
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
This is you on the cusp of your next chapter.
It's a passageway into something new.
It just seeps into you.
It's a groundbreaking moment.
We can make it ours.
We're coming out hot. We're starting here. It's definitely going to be a treat for their palate.
What a story.
She had the imagination of a genius.
Each time I go up there, it's the sense of newness.
3, 2, 1.
Showtime.
We're all running.
It's beautiful.
Cherish every moment. Continue to laugh.
We hope you'll join us.
There is no going back.
It's time for a new beginning.
Says you have to slow down as you get older. A Georgia woman turned 100 years old last week, and she celebrated by going bowling. Every Monday morning since 2016, Mrs. True Miller Bacon and her 76-year-old son Robert make a 45-minute drive to the bowling alley where the duo and their teammates compete in a Monday morning senior league. There she is. And when Bacon was asked if she cared about the score, here's what she had to say.
Oh, I don't worry about it. I try to do the best I can. If I make a mistake, then I try to, fix it.
Of course, with age comes wisdom, and Bacon had some advice she said she could spare to other seniors looking to stay active, saying, give it a try, go out and bowl, have fun. I don't know about you guys, but bowling, especially at that age, I'm pretty impressed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, bowling, it'll make your arm hurt for a week after. I know it always did it for me.
I'm interested, though. She's bumpers, is she not?
Right.
I don't know. We need answers to these
questions.
questions.
I saw some of the clips, and she doesn't use bumpers, but she does, in fact, get nearly a perfect game every time.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to be perfect bowling, whether if you're trying to get inside this weekend or heading into this weekend, as we're going to have some rain in the area, and temperatures only sitting at about 48, 45 degrees. But then, the beginning of next week, we start to see a bit of a rebound. We're going to see those highs as up at 62, 69, and then even a 71 thrown in there. So be on the lookout for that as we start to see an increase in temperatures.
Thanks, Steve. And folks, that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching us. For all of us here at Newswatch, we appreciate it. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. Have a great night.